There was once a boy named Arman who lived in a quiet village tucked between the hills. His father was a humble man, wise but poor. One morning, he handed Arman a small, dusty stone wrapped in cloth. "Go to the marketplace," he said. "Show this stone to people, but do not sell it. Just ask how much they'd pay." Arman was puzzled. "But it's just a stone," he said. His father smiled. "Just ask." So Arman went. The first person he approached was a fruit seller. She looked at the stone, turned it over and said, "Looks smooth. Maybe I can use it to press garlic. I'll give you 1 rupee." Arman thanked her and walked on. Next, he stopped at the iron shop. The man examined it, tapped it against the counter, and said, "Feels solid. I'll pay 10 rupees. Could be useful to weigh things down." Arman nodded and kept walking. He came home and told his father. They didn't think it was worth much. His father smiled again. "Now take it to the jeweler in town. Same stone, same rule. Don't sell, just ask." Arman did as he was told. When the jeweler saw the stone, his eyes widened. The jeweler held the stone delicately, almost reverently. He placed it beneath a magnifying glass, turned on a light, and didn't speak for a while. Then, slowly, he looked up. "Where did you get this?" he asked. Arman hesitated. "My father gave it to me. He told me not to sell it, just to ask for its value." The jeweler exhaled. "This isn't just a stone. It's a rare sapphire, perfect cut, pure. I've only seen something like this once in my life." He looked Arman in the eye. "If you were selling it, I'd offer you 500,000 rupees, maybe more." Arman stood frozen, trying to make sense of what he had just heard. The same object that was worth 1 rupee to one person, now suddenly priceless to another. He walked home slowly, holding the stone tighter than before. When he reached, he placed it on the table. His father looked at him and asked gently, "What did you learn?" Arman didn't speak for a moment. Then he said quietly, "It's not about the stone, is it?" His father nodded. "Exactly. And now you're ready for the real lesson." His father picked up the stone and held it between them. "You see, my son, this stone didn't change. It was the same when the fruit seller touched it, the same at the iron shop, the same with the jeweler. What changed was not the stone, but the eyes that saw it." Arman listened, silent but alert. His father continued, "In life, you will meet many people. Some will see you as useful only for what you can do for them. Others may overlook you entirely. They'll measure your worth in coins, not character. But once in a while, someone will truly see you. They'll recognize your value, not because you shouted it, but because they know how to look." Arman stared at the stone again. It looked ordinary in the light of their modest home, but now he understood. It was never about the stone. It was about perspective, recognition, truth. "You are not what people are willing to pay for you," his father said gently. "You are what you're truly worth. And that worth doesn't change based on where you are or who's looking. It just waits to be seen by the right eyes." That evening, Arman sat alone in the courtyard, the stone resting in his palm. He turned it over gently, feeling its smooth surface, but thinking far beyond its weight or shape. All his life, he had quietly accepted the labels people gave him: ordinary, average, just a villager's boy. And maybe, just maybe, he had started to believe them. But now, the silence around him felt different. It wasn't empty. It was full of something he hadn't felt before. Self-awareness. Not pride, not ego. Just the quiet understanding that he didn't need everyone to value him correctly. He just needed to stop believing those who couldn't see clearly. The next day, at school, when a boy mocked his clothes, Armin didn't shrink. He didn't fight back either. He just smiled, knowing the truth. The boy didn't see clearly, and that was no longer Armin's burden to carry. Over time, he stopped trying to fit in and started focusing on what made him unique. His art, his way with words, his thoughtful nature. And slowly, people began to notice, not because he shouted louder, but because he started to shine in his own quiet way. One afternoon, the school held a presentation contest. Armin had never stood on that stage before. He wasn't the loudest, he wasn't the most popular, but this time, something inside him whispered, "Let them see who you really are." He walked up slowly, holding nothing but a single drawing he'd made, a simple image of a stone in an open hand. No colors, no glitter, just quiet meaning. He told the story of the stone his father had given him, the journey through the village, and the lesson it had left in his heart. His voice didn't tremble. It didn't boom either. It simply carried truth. When he finished, the room was silent. Not because they didn't understand, but because they did. The applause that followed wasn't just for the story. It was for Armin finally standing in the light of his own worth. Later that day, his teacher walked up to him and said, "I've seen you for a long time, Armin, but today you allowed others to see you too." Armin didn't smile out of pride. He smiled because he had finally stopped waiting for others to define him. And in doing so, he had defined himself. Value doesn't come from price tags, praise, or popularity. It comes from truth, the quiet, unshakable kind you carry inside. Armin's story teaches us that our worth doesn't shift based on how others see us. It only reveals itself when we stop chasing approval and start owning our identity. The same way the stone didn't change in different hands, you don't change just because the world doesn't recognize you yet. Sometimes you are the rare gem, simply waiting for the right eyes to see you. So, protect your light. Hold your worth gently but firmly. And remember, the right people won't just admire your shine, they'll understand its origin. Have you ever let someone else's opinion define your value? What helped you reclaim your worth? Share your moment in the comments. Your voice might be exactly what someone else needs today. If this story spoke to something inside you, pass it on to someone who still doubts their shine. And subscribe for more stories that remind you your value was never up for debate.